Millionaire goes into shock upon seeing a girl selling lemonade who is identical to his missing daughter. Could it be, was it really her? Stay tuned to discover the truth and how the little girl taught the powerful a lesson that changed their lives forever. Subscribe so you don't miss new emotional stories. 7 years had passed. 7 years, 2 months, and 14 days. Michael Anderson knew the exact time because he counted every second of his personal hell. Standing on the steel beam of the 30th floor of his new skyscraper, Michael didn't see the empire he was building. He didn't see the tower of glass and concrete that would dominate the skyline of this quiet Midwest town. A feat of engineering his partners called visionary. He only saw the void. At his age, Michael Anderson had it all. An incalculable fortune, a multi-million-dollar business empire, respect that bordered on fear. And yet, every morning, he woke up in a cold mansion next to his wife Emily, both ghosts sharing the same pain. The disappearance of Lily, his only daughter, had stopped time. Today, he was here in this forgotten town, personally supervising the construction. Not out of necessity, but out of desperation. Work was the only thing that silenced the screams in his head. A few meters away, his chief architect, Ramirez, was reviewing some blueprints. Michael, the west support beam is secured. The schedule is moving 3% faster than expected. It's a triumph. Michael just nodded, his face carved from stone. A triumph. Another one. Another empty building for an empty man. 7 years. The image tormented him every night. His father, Harold Anderson, a man now broken and isolated by guilt, had taken 2-year-old Lily for a walk in the park. Harold stepped into the car for a few seconds, which was just a few steps away to get a sippy cup. It was only seconds. When he came back, the stroller was empty. Desperate, he looked around and saw her. He saw a homeless woman, ragged and with a distant look in her eyes, carrying his granddaughter in her arms. The woman disappeared into the busy farmers market crowd. Harold ran. He screamed. But it was too late. Lily and her little emerald necklace had vanished. The kidnapping had destroyed the family. Harold had locked himself away. A tormented ghost. Emily, his wife, had poured herself into charity foundations, searching for her daughter's face in every lost child. And Michael had poured himself into work, building a wall of steel and glass around his broken heart. A sharp sound interrupted his somber memory. It wasn't the screech of metal or the roar of machinery. It was laughter. Lemonade fresh, lemonade. Get your lemonade here. Michael frowned, annoyed by the interruption, and looked down at the workers' break area. 3 small children carrying pitchers and cups were moving among the workers in hard hats. Who the hell let those kids in? Michael growled, turning to his head of security. This is an active construction zone. Get them out of here. Boss, look, Ramirez said, the architect with an amused smile. The leader of the group, a girl of about 9 with an energy that shone even from a distance, had planted herself in front of the site foreman, a burly man named Jenkins. Lemonade, lemonade, the girl sang out. The doctor says we are what we drink, so drink lemonade. Results guaranteed at the first sip. Several workers, tired and sweaty, burst out laughing. Jenkins, the foreman, crossed his arms, trying to look stern, but a smile tugged at his lips. You're a pretty smart kid, Jenkins said, pulling out his wallet. Give me 2 cups. The girl celebrated with a little hop, pouring the lemonade with professional agility while the 2 younger boys, Tommy and Jake, collected the money with seriousness. She's got guts, Ramirez laughed. That girl's going places. Michael said nothing and didn't want to look. That joy, that vitality, it repulsed him. It was an insult to his own pain. Ramirez, Michael said, his voice cold as steel. Focus on the load-bearing beam, please. We are not here to... Good afternoon, gentlemen. The sing-song voice interrupted him. Michael realized the children had come closer and turned around annoyed. The girl and her 2 little brothers were standing there in front of the group of executives in expensive suits without a shred of fear. The girl in her worn but clean sundress and hair tied back in 2 messy pigtails looked at them with a radiant smile. Excuse the interruption, she said, doing a little theatrical curtsy that made the other executives laugh. My customers down there, she pointed to the workers, are very happy, but I saw your faces, and you looked very serious. And my mom Maria says serious people need more refreshment. The executive smiled, charmed by the show. And tell me, Miss Saleslady, Ramirez said, playing along with her, why should we buy from you? The girl put her hands on her hips, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Excellent question, sir. Did you know that money doesn't buy happiness? I've heard that, said Ramirez, amused. But the lemonade, oh yes, she exclaimed. And you guys are in luck because I still have lemonade here, and you have money. We can make a trade. The executives burst out laughing. Adorable, one of them said. So brave. All right, little one, I'll buy a whole pitcher. Thank you, but I can't, she said seriously. If I sell it all to you, my little brothers Tommy and Jake will get sad because they didn't sell anything. It has to be fair. While the other executives pulled out their wallets, charmed by the girl, Michael didn't move. He remained silent, his pale face glued to the sheets of paper he was holding in his hand. The girl, seeing that he wasn't buying anything, walked over, separating herself from the group. Tommy and Jake stayed behind, counting the coins. Mister, she said, tilting her head. You look the saddest out of everyone. Don't you want some lemonade? Michael looked at her, and his dead, dry heart gave a painful lurch. He was going to tell her to leave. He was going to tell security to kick her out. He opened his mouth to speak. And then he saw it hanging from her neck. Over her worn dress lay a small necklace, a thin gold chain holding a single green emerald cut in the shape of a heart. Michael's world stopped. The roar of the construction disappeared. The wind on the 30th floor died down. The ringing in his ears, the constant noise of his 7 years of pain, was replaced by a deafening silence. It couldn't be. It was impossible. It was the necklace he himself had commissioned. The necklace he had put on Lily for her first birthday, a replica of the one he'd given Emily when they got married. Michael couldn't breathe. The air had turned solid in his lungs. Architect Ramirez noticed his paleness. Michael, are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost. Michael didn't answer. His gaze was locked on the green stone. Mr. the girl said, now worried. Her salesgirl smile had vanished, replaced by genuine confusion. She didn't look like a businesswoman anymore. She just looked like a little girl. If you're mad, you don't have to buy anything if you don't want to. He lifted his gaze from the necklace and looked at her. He really looked at her face. Emily's same upturned nose, the same shape of her eyebrows. And those eyes were his. They were the eyes from the age progression photos his private security team updated every 6 months. The photos he kept on his nightstand, looking at them every morning, torturing himself with hope. It was her. The clipboard he was holding slipped from his fingers and hit the ground with a dull thud. The executives went quiet, watching their boss. Michael, what's wrong? Ramirez asked, alarmed. But Michael didn't hear him. He took a step, then another. And then the most powerful man in the city, billionaire Michael Anderson, fell to his knees. His knees, covered in $5,000 suit trousers, hit the dust of the concrete floor. You, he whispered. His voice was nothing more than a gasp of broken air. The girl stepped back, scared. Tommy and Jake ran to her side, ready to defend her. It's okay, he said, raising a trembling hand. I won't hurt you. He pointed at the necklace. That necklace, where did you get it? The girl touched the jewel instinctively. This, I don't know. I've always had it. When the Vave found me, I was already wearing it. Mama Maria says it's my lucky charm. Mama Maria. Michael repeated, his mind trying to connect the dots through the fog of his shock. What is your name, little one? I'm Sunny, she said, her voice small now. Because Mama Maria says I'm warm and I light up everything like the sun. And they are Tommy and Jake, my little brothers. Sunny, he repeated. The name was beautiful and it hurt. And where do you live? Why are you out here alone? We aren't alone, Sunny said, regaining a bit of her courage, thinking he was scolding her. We live in the orphanage on the hill with Mama Maria. She's the best, but she's always very tired because she works so hard in her diner and in the garden to take care of all of us. And does she know you're here? Michael asked, his voice choked. No, Sunny admitted quietly. We snuck out. It's just, I heard she needed money for Tommy's medicine and I'm the best at making lemonade. I wanted to help her. Please don't tell on us. The confession, the innocence, the kindness. It was too much. A tear, then another, rolled down Michael's cheeks, hot and silent. The man who hadn't cried at his partner's funeral, who hadn't cried when the stock market crashed, was now crying on his knees in front of a 9-year-old girl selling lemonade. Sunny looked at him, her fear fading away, replaced by deep, pure empathy. That was her special gift. She could always feel when someone was sad. She furrowed her brow. This man so big and rich was sadder than anyone she had ever seen. "Mister," she said softly, "don't cry, it makes me sad too." She hesitated for a second, then looked down at her pitcher. There was only one cup left, the fullest one, perfectly sweetened with honey and fresh lemons. She poured it. "Here, take it," she told him, holding it out. "You don't have to pay me, even if money can't buy happiness. I hope this cheers you up a little bit." She offered him the lemonade. Michael just stared at her. He looked at the cup in her small, delicate hand. Then a sound that none of his employees had heard in 7 years erupted from his chest. A laugh. It was a broken sound. A sob mixed with a joy so pure and overwhelming that it actually hurt. He was crying and laughing at the same time. He took the lemonade with a trembling hand, his fingers brushing against hers. "Thank you, Sonny," he said. "Do you feel better?" He nodded, unable to speak. He wiped his tears, but more kept falling. Yes, I feel better." He looked at the little girl who was his daughter, his living daughter, his kind, brave daughter. "This," he said, his voice shaking, "this is the happiest day of my life." "Because of lemonade?" she asked, confused. "No," he said, and his smile, a real smile, lit up his devastated face. "Because of you. Because I found you." "I wasn't lost, mister," she said. "No, you weren't," he said. "But I was." He stood up slowly. "My name is Michael, and that necklace belonged to my daughter." "Your daughter?" Sonny whispered. "Yes," he said, "and she looked exactly like you." "Really?" she asked, still confused. She had been told to be careful with strangers, especially if they acted weird or offered her things. She was supposed to run away immediately. This man's sudden actions were confusing and a little scary, but he had just said he was her dad. Wasn't that wonderful? She was confused about what she should feel or do. She had only practiced how to sell. She didn't know what to say if she found her dad. Tommy and Jake, who had heard the conversation, surrounded her like protective guards. "How do we know you're telling the truth?" Tommy said, mustering up his courage. Instinctively, Sonny put her arms out in front of the two boys to keep them back. She had to protect them like a big sister. "Little Sonny," Michael said, testing out his daughter's new name. "Please don't be afraid. I just need to speak with your Mama Maria. Can you take me to her?" Sonny looked at the man. He was still crying, but his face wasn't sad anymore. It was something else, something she didn't understand. She looked at Tommy and Jake, who were watching her, waiting for her decision. She was the leader. "Okay," Sonny said finally, "but if you hurt us, my brothers will bite your ankles." Michael let out another broken laugh. "That's fair." He tucked the lemonade cup she had given him into his jacket pocket as if it were a treasure. "Show me the way." The journey was like a fever dream. Michael the billionaire followed 3 children in worn-out old clothes through a construction maze, down freight elevators, and across muddy fields. He didn't say anything, he just kept his gaze fixed on the back of the girl's neck, on her messy pigtails, terrified that if he blinked, she would disappear again. They arrived at a hill on the outskirts of town. The orphanage on the hill wasn't a formal building. It was an old, ramshackle farmhouse, but it was painted in bright colors. There was a vegetables garden in the back, bigger than the one at Michael's mansion, and the smell of baking apple pie floated in the air. It was poor but vibrant with life. "Mama Maria," Sonny shouted, running toward the front door. A woman of about 65 with completely white hair and dirt-stained hands came out onto the porch, wiping her hands on an apron. Her eyes, kind but exhausted, widened with panic when she saw Michael. "Sonny, Tommy, Jake," she exclaimed, her voice full of relief and fear. "Where have you been? I was sick with worry and who is this gentleman?" "Mama, calm down," Sonny said, hugging the woman's leg. "Nothing happened to us. Sorry for sneaking out to sell lemonade, but look, we sold it all. And this sad man says I look exactly like his daughter, so I brought him here. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Michael Anderson. The necklace the girl is wearing, it's the same one my daughter disappeared with 7 years ago. Please allow me to speak with you. Maria forgot the scolding she was about to give for sneaking out shocked by what she had just heard. She stared at him intently. Then her gaze dropped to the emerald necklace Sonny always wore. The woman's face went pale. Come this way, she said seriously. The inside was humble, but scrupulously clean. It smelled of apples and soap. Maria sat the children at a table with a glass of milk and then faced Michael. I have prayed for this day, and I have feared it, she said quietly. I knew that necklace didn't belong to a poor family. Tell me, Michael pleaded. 7 years ago, Maria began. The police brought a woman to town. They found her wandering on the highway. She had mental health issues and was carrying a baby. A baby about 2 years old, dirty and scared but clutching that necklace. The woman was institutionalized. The baby didn't have papers. No one claimed her. 7 years, Michael whispered. The dates matched. I named her Sunny. Maria continued, her eyes filling with tears. Because this place was so dark until she got here. She lit up everything. She's the most special girl, sir, the happiest, the bravest. She looks after everyone else. She even looks after me. She's Lily, Michael said. The word felt strange in his mouth. Her name is Lily Anderson. What are you going to do? Maria asked, trembling. You're going to take her away. Michael looked at her. He saw pure love in that woman's eyes. He saw the sacrifice. I have to. He stopped himself. He couldn't do this. He just pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking so bad he could barely dial. Hello? His wife Emily's voice answered instantly, filled with an anxiety that never went away. Michael, what's wrong? Are you okay? Emily, he said, and his own voice cracked. Emily, you need to come to the Riverside construction site. Right now. Bring the helicopter. Hurry. Michael, what is it? You're scaring me. Is it your dad? Did something happen to Harold? No, Michael said, looking through the kitchen door where Sonny was making Tommy laugh with a funny face. It's Lily. Silence. Absolute silence on the other end of the line. No, don't joke about that, Michael, Emily whispered, her voice broken by unimaginable pain. Don't you dare do this to me. I swear on my life, Em. I swear on the hell we've lived through. I found her. She's alive. She is right here in front of me. Just come. Hurry. He hung up. 20 minutes later, the sound of a helicopter ripped through the sky above the town. Michael stepped out onto the porch just as the black machine was touching down on the abandoned baseball field next to the orphanage. Emily jumped out before the blades even stopped spinning. She ran toward him, her face a mask of terror and impossible hope. Where was all she could say. Michael, where? Calm down, Em. She's here. He couldn't finish. The orphanage door opened, and Sunny stepped out, curious about the helicopter noise. She was holding a half-eaten cookie. That machine is huge, she said in amazement, staring at the helicopter. Emily froze. She saw the girl. She saw the dark, messy hair. She saw the worn-out dress, and then she saw the face. The air left Emily's lungs. With a single choked gasp, her knees gave out. No, she whispered, collapsing onto the dirt ground. No, it's not possible. Michael ran to her side, but Emily didn't see him. Her eyes were locked on the girl. Sunny, seeing the beautiful woman crying on the ground, she walked over cautiously, her natural empathy stronger than her fear. Ma'am, she said softly. Are you okay? Did you fall? Emily raised a trembling hand, not daring to touch her. She was hyperventilating. She was seeing a ghost. She saw Michael's eyes. She saw her own nose. She saw her baby. Then Emily's gaze dropped, and she saw the necklace, the green emerald shining in the sun. Lily, Emily whispered. The name slipped from her lips like a forgotten prayer. Sunny tilted her head. Why is everyone calling me that today? My name is Sunny. Lily, Emily repeated, and then with a strength Michael didn't know she had left, she crawled across the ground on her knees. She crawled until she was right in front of the girl. She didn't grab her. She didn't scare her. She just looked at her hands trembling, tears soaking the dirt. My baby, Emily sobbed. Oh my God, my baby. You're alive. Sunny looked at this broken woman, and her 9-year-old heart split in two. She didn't understand what was happening, but she understood pain. Slowly, Sunny raised her hand and, just like she had done with Michael, she offered Emily the other half of her cookie. Seeing that gesture, that same gesture of pure kindness, broke Emily. She let out a cry, an animalistic sound born of 7 years of repressed pain, and hugged her. She pulled her close, burying her face in the girl's hair, which smelled like lemons and sunshine. She breathed her in. It's you. It's really you. You smell exactly the same. Lily, my love, my life. Emily wept, rocking her back and forth, while Michael knelt beside them, wrapping his arms around them both, crying in silence. Sunny stiffened for a second, overwhelmed by such raw emotion. But then she felt the woman's arms around her, and Michael weeping against her back. And for the first time in her life, she felt something strange, something warm and familiar. Slowly, her little arms went around Emily's neck, and she hugged her mother back. The goodbye was the hardest thing Sunny had ever done. After hours of tears and confusing explanations of instant DNA tests that Michael ordered, and calls to Grandpa Harold, the truth sank in. These were her parents. She was going home, but that meant leaving her home. Tommy and Jake didn't understand. They were terrified. Don't go, Sunny, Tommy cried, clinging to her dress. You said we were brothers and sisters. You promised we'd always take care of each other. You can't leave, Jake sobbed. Who's gonna protect us from the big kids? Who's gonna read me stories? Shh. Sunny comforted them, even though her own tears were flowing out of control. She hugged her two little brothers tight. I'm not abandoning you, never. I'll come back for you, I promise. Sunny, my love. Mama Maria spoke heartbroken, but knowing it was the right thing. They are your blood family. You have to go with them. But she said, touching her own heart, we'll always be your soul family. We'll be fine, you don't need to worry anymore. Will you really be okay? Sunny asked, looking at Maria. But Tommy's medicine and your back and the diner, we'll take care of all that. You shouldn't worry about grown-up stuff. You're just a little girl at your age. You just need to worry about playing, learning, and enjoying every moment. Being happy. Go on and promise me you'll be very happy. That would be the most wonderful thing you could do for us, Maria said. Sunny felt her heart ache. They were taking her away. She clung to Maria, to her brothers, in a crying group hug. Emily watched her heart breaking all over again. Her daughter wasn't just alive. She was loved in this place. She was a ray of sunshine. Finally, Michael had to gently pick her up. We have to go, Lily. My name is Sunny, she screamed, hitting his chest. I know, he said. And you can be Beth. As they lifted her into the helicopter, Sunny looked out the window, watching the three small figures, Maria, Tommy, and Jake, getting smaller and smaller on the ground. It felt as if her heart was being torn in two. They landed on the helipad of a mansion that looked like a palace. Servants dressed in uniforms ran out. Lily was her original name, but it felt new to her. She was overwhelmed by the cold marble, the high ceilings, and the silence. The orphanage was noisy and chaotic. This was a silent museum. It's a miracle. A miracle. She heard a sharp voice. A tall, incredibly elegant woman with a smile that didn't reach her cold eyes was approaching. It was her Aunt Victoria, the wife of Michael's younger brother, Robert. Michael, Emily, Victoria exclaimed, hugging them as they met her. Oh, what joy Robert is on his way from the office. The news was such a shock. Then she turned to Lily. Her smile tightened for a millisecond. And here she is, little Lily. Oh dear. Victoria leaned down and hugged her. Lily shuddered. Unlike Emily's warm embrace, this woman's was as cold as the marble beneath her feet. How adorable, Victoria said, straightening up. Although a bit dirty from the trip, aren't we? And, my God, what is that smell? Lemonade. Don't worry, dear. We'll give you a good bath and buy you clothes that don't look like that. Emily and Michael were too overwhelmed by emotion to notice the subtle poison in Victoria's words. Vic, can you stay with her for a minute? Michael said. I have to go see father. Harold needs to see her. Of course, brother. Go. We'll get to know each other. As soon as Michael and Emily disappeared down the hallway, Victoria's smile vanished. She crouched down until her cold eyes were level with Lily's. Her voice dropped to a venomous hiss. Listen to me closely, you little orphanage rat, she whispered, her smile gone. I don't know how you survived, but you ruined everything. Even though Robert told me not to do it at first, in the end he even congratulated me. You were a nuisance to everyone. Lily stepped back. What? I heard they called you Sonny, she said with a smirk. You should have stayed there because you are no son here. You are nothing. You are a stain, eh? You are slum trash. You think they love you. They're just excited to have found their lost daughter. They lost you when you were a baby, but look what you've become. I just pity you. A dirty girl who doesn't match the luxury outfits. No manners, no class. You don't belong here. Your parents are tolerating you now, but they'll get tired of you soon. You're a burden just like you were 7 years ago. No, that's not true, Lily whispered. No, Victoria scoffed. Look around you. This is power. This is wealth. This was supposed to be for my children. But you came back. She leaned in even closer. And your grandfather Harold. You've seen him sick, confined to a wheelchair. Do you know why? No, because it's your fault, Victoria hissed. You got lost, you broke him. All the pain, all the misery in this family started and ended with you. You are a curse. Lily stood, paralyzed terror chilling her. She had left her home, her brothers, her mother, to enter a nightmare. Oh, by the way, if you dare complain about me to anyone, I'll make sure you end up on the street alone, and I will burn down that orphanage of yours myself. Welcome home, Lily, Victoria said, her fake smile returning as she heard footsteps approaching. The Anderson mansion was a cage of gold and silence. Lily, who in her heart remained sunny, spent her first 48 hours walking barefoot on carpets that cost more than the entire orphanage. They had given her a room that looked like a fairy tale princess's bedroom, a canopy bed, a closet full of clothes she had never seen, with itchy tags and dolls with glass eyes that seemed to watch her. But it was cold. There was no laughter in the hallways, no smell of Mama Maria's stew, no soft snoring from Tommy in the bunk below. There was only the echo of her own footsteps and the hum of a loneliness that weighed 1,000 times more than poverty. Her new parents, Michael and Emily, were kind. Desperately kind. They looked at her with a mix of adoration and pain that made her squirm. They would cry at weird times when she laughed, when she ate too fast a habit from the orphanage, or when she wiped her mouth on the sleeve of her silk shirt. But it was her Aunt Victoria who felt the most real because her parents' love was confusing, but her aunt's contempt was crystal clear. Victoria's words had become a poison that replayed in her head every time she was alone. You don't belong here, rat girl. You think they love you? They just feel sorry for you. You're a burden, just like you were 7 years ago. And the worst of all, your grandfather Harold. You've seen him. He's sick, stuck in a wheelchair. Sick, stuck in a... You know why? Because it's your fault. You got lost. You broke him. It was her fault. She had broken this grandfather she didn't even remember. The pain she saw on Michael's face, the constant sadness in Emily's eyes. She was the cause of it all. If she was a curse, then she couldn't stay. She had to see the man she had destroyed. That night, while the mansion slept, Lily got out of her silk bed, took off the expensive pajamas, and put on her old clothes from the orphanage. The worn-out dress that smelled like Mama Maria was her armor. She stepped out of her room. The hallway was a dark canyon, but she followed the vague memory of the instructions Victoria had cruelly given her. The east wing where we keep the ghosts. She arrived at a heavy oak door. It was closed but not locked. She pushed it open. Grandfather Harold's wing. It was a sanctuary frozen in time. The air was stale. It smelled of dust medicine and deep despair. White sheets covered expensive furniture like sleeping ghosts. She followed the hallway to the single door at the end where a thin line of light filtered through. She peeked through the crack. A man, or what was left of him, was sitting in a wheelchair with his back to the door. He was wearing old pajamas and had long, unkempt hair. He was motionless, staring at the opposite wall. Lily squinted. The wall was covered with her Photos of a laughing baby, a framed lock of hair, and in the center, a huge oil portrait of a 2-year-old girl with curly hair, bright eyes, and an unmistakable emerald necklace. The man in the wheelchair let out a sound, a low moan, a dry sob that seemed to be torn from his guts. Lily clenched her fists. If this man was suffering, it was because of her. She had to know. She opened the door. The slight creak made Harold tense up like a wounded animal. "Who is it?" he growled. His voice was hoarse from disuse. "Get out. I told you 1,000 times to leave me alone. I don't want to see anyone." Lily took a step into the room. "Hello?" The girl's voice hit Harold like lightning. He froze. He was dreaming again. It was another ghost sent by his guilt. Slowly trembling, he turned his wheelchair. His eyes, gray and sunken, went wide. He saw the girl. It wasn't the baby from the portrait. It was an older girl, skinny-dressed, in poor clothes. But she wore the same face. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. "No, it's not real. Go away. Leave me alone. You're not real." "I am real," Lily said, taking another step. "My name is Sunny, even though they say I'm Lily." Harold stared at her. He saw the emerald necklace shining faintly under the lamplight. It was real. The miracle Michael had told him about on the phone. It was real, and now she was here in his personal tomb. "You," he whispered. Lily walked toward him, her expression serious. "You are Harold, my grandfather. I... He stammered, unable to process it. "You're sick," she said, "and they told me it's my fault." That innocent accusation was the final blow that shattered the dam of 7 years of repressed guilt. Harold broke. "Yes," he screamed, and the scream tore into a hysterical sob. "Yes. No, it's not yours. It is all my fault. Everything is my fault." He pounded his useless knees with his fists. 7 years. Oh my God, 7 years. You're alive. He threw himself out of his wheelchair. He hit the floor with a dull thud, but he didn't care. He crawled on his hands and knees, his weak legs dragging behind him until he was at her feet. "I lost you," he sobbed, clinging to her ankles like a castaway. "I lost you, Lily, my granddaughter, my princess. It was 1 second. Just 1 second. Lily stood paralyzed, terrified by this explosion of grief. The car was 5 steps away. 5. He moaned, his face bathed in tears. "I just went for your sippy cup, and when I came back, the stroller was empty. I saw that woman. I saw her. I ran, Lily. I swear to you I ran, but she was lost. 7 years. 7 years of hell for 5 seconds of carelessness." He looked up at her, his eyes begging for something she couldn't understand. "Forgive me, please, my child. Forgive me. I ruined your life. I ruined your parents. I don't deserve to live. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I'm a monster." He completely broke down, his forehead hitting the carpet in a gesture of absolute surrender, mumbling, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Lily watched this powerful man reduced to a trembling wreck. She'd seen kids cry like this before. Tommy when they took his only toy. Jake when he had nightmares. And she knew exactly what to do. She waited. She waited until the deep sobs turned into gasps. Finally, she spoke. Her voice, clear and firm, cut through the air thick with guilt. "Stop saying that," she said. Harold looked up, confused. "Stop saying you're sorry," Lily repeated, crouching down until her eyes were level with his. "Mama Maria. My mom at the orphanage. She says sorry is just a word to make the person saying it feel better. She says it doesn't fix a broken roof and it doesn't fill an empty stomach." Harold stared at her, not understanding. "You're really sad," she said, as if explaining something obvious. "And you think it's your fault, right?" He nodded silently. "Well," she said, shrugging her shoulders, "Mama Maria also says that if you really messed up, just saying sorry isn't enough. You have to do something good to make up for it." The phrase, so simple yet so profound. You do something good to make up for it. Harold stopped trembling. He looked at the girl, this 9-year-old child who had spent 7 years in poverty, who had been kidnapped, abandoned, and who was now taking care of him. She wasn't offering him absolution. She was offering him a job. Make up for it, he whispered. How do I make up for 7 years of hell? Lily smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had given since arriving at the mansion. I have an idea, but first you have to get up. You can't fix anything from the floor. He looked at her. This girl, his granddaughter, his sunshine. With a grunt using muscles atrophied by self-pity, Harold braced himself against his wheelchair, and with a supreme effort, he stood up. He swayed, but he stood tall. Taller than he had been in years. The next morning, Lily called an urgent family meeting in the library. Michael and Emily arrived nervously. She was adapting. She was okay. Victoria and her teenage son Ethan arrived with condescending smiles, assuming the girl was just going to throw some low-class tantrum. Robert, Michael's brother, who had barely glanced at the girl and never with interest headed straight for his office, thinking it was a waste of time to listen to a child's nonsense. But the biggest surprise was when Harold, he entered not in his wheelchair, but walking with a cane, standing tall. His hair was combed, he was clean-shaven, and he was wearing a suit for the first time in 7 years. He sat at the head of the table, his eyes holding a steely glint that Victoria hadn't seen since the kidnapping. Harold, Victoria whispered, visibly shaken. Silence, Victoria, he said. I didn't call this meeting. She did. Lily walked in. She was wearing her orphanage clothes, the worn-out dress, and the torn sandals. She stood next to her grandfather. Thank you for coming, she said. Her voice was small but clear. Michael and Emily smiled, thinking it was adorable. Mom, Dad? She looked at them. I love you. Your house is really big and the food is really good, but I can't stay here. Emily's smile vanished. What, Lily, my love? What are you talking about? I'm talking about how I don't belong here. Lily said, her voice steady, repeating the words that had tormented her. I'm an ill-mannered girl, I'm dirty, I don't know how to use all the forks, and I'm a burden. I'm a curse on this family. Michael shouted, standing up. Who told you that? Who dared to say those words to you? Victoria turned white as a sheet. Lily looked at her parents, her eyes full of tears. She refused to shed. It doesn't matter who said it. It's true. I'm not the girl in the photos. I'm Sunny, the dirty girl from the orphanage who sells lemonade. No, my love, you're not. Emily cried out, running toward her. Lily stepped back and took a deep breath. I've decided that I'm leaving. I'm going back home. Home, this is your home, Michael pleaded. No, said Lily. My home is the orphanage with Mama Maria, with Tommy and Jake. Over there, if I'm dirty, nobody insults me. Over there, if I'm hungry, we share. That's where I belong. You can't, Michael said. I know, said Lily. And now, you have to make a decision. She looked at her parents, her gaze unwavering. If you really love me, if you love Sunny, not Lily, if I'm really your family, you'll come with me. Calm down, Mother, Ethan said, his voice bored. It's just a setback. That's all. The old man will be back in his wheelchair as soon as his knees start hurting. Ethan is right, said Robert, who had joined the conversation after being locked in his office all day. I know my brother. He's a more capable businessman than I am, and that's because he can't go long without looking at numbers and papers. Michael will get bored of playing poor as soon as he realizes there's no room service. They'll be back begging in less than a week. Don't you get it? Victoria shot back, her voice rising. That brat Sunny, or whatever she's called, she has them bewitched. Oh, Grandpa, do something good. Pathetic rubbish. She ruined 7 years of work. 7 years. Ethan, you were supposed to inherit everything. Harold's fortune, Michael's shares. It was all planned out. Harold felt the blood freeze in his veins. And now Victoria continued, her voice dropping to a poisonous whisper that pierced through the door. Now that she's back, now that everyone has seen her, I can't just make her disappear so easily anymore. So easily. The admission hit him like a physical punch. Harold leaned against the wall. It hadn't just been an opportunistic kidnapping by a homeless woman. It had been a plan. It had been her, his own daughter-in-law. Why not? Ethan replied with a cruelty that made Harold's stomach churn. She's still just a street rat with a stupid name. An accident at a poor orphanage would be a terrible tragedy, wouldn't it? A fire. Maybe those old farmhouses burn fast. No one would suspect a thing. That was the final straw. Harold kicked the study doors open. The slam of wood against the wall sounded like a cannon shot. Victoria, Robert, and Ethan spun around, their faces masks of absolute terror. Harold, Victoria stammered, spilling her glass of wine. What are you doing here? You should be in that pigsty. He finished the sentence. His voice was a low, terrifying growl. He stood in the doorway, his large figure silhouetted against the hall light. The man they saw wasn't the broken old man they had looked down on for 7 years. He was the founder of the empire. Harold said, taking a step into the room. But I forgot something. What did you forget? Ethan said, trying to sound brave, but his voice trembled. I forgot to take out the trash, Harold said. He walked slowly toward the mahogany desk, every step firm and deliberate. Victoria and Robert backed away until their spines hit the marble fireplace, while the young man slouched into a corner. I can't just make her disappear so easily anymore, Harold quoted, his voice deadly calm. Dad, calm down. It's not what it looks like, Robert said with his usual indifferent tone, while Victoria's face went as pale as a sheet of paper. Harold, I didn't say that. Are you confused? Confused? He repeated. Confused like when you told my granddaughter she was orphanage trash. Confused like when you told her it was her fault I was sick. Or confused like when you paid that poor homeless woman to take her away. I didn't do that, Victoria shrieked. It was an accident. I just wanted to give Michael a scare. I wanted him to value his family. Us. The woman got scared and took her for real. It wasn't my fault. Lie, Harold said. I heard every word. I heard how you were planning an accident, a fire. I heard you, your son, planning the murder of my granddaughter. Ethan shrank back. Grandpa, I was just joking. Mother, tell him. Harold laughed. A dry, terrible sound. 7 years. 7 years my eldest son and daughter-in-law lived in hell. 7 years. I rotted in that wheelchair, blaming myself for something you orchestrated. All for money. He sat in his leather chair, the chair he hadn't occupied in 7 years. He pulled out a pen and a sheet of his personal stationery. Father, it's true, my wife made a mistake, but what are you planning to do? We're family. She deserves jail, Harold said. But I'm not going to call the police. Victoria breathed a sigh of relief, but too soon. No, Harold continued. Jail would be too easy. You're going to get something worse. You're going to have nothing. He signed the paper with a furious stroke. You are out. Disinherited. None of you deserve to use my last name. What? Robert almost fell backward. All his life he had been used to luxury. He took it for granted that everything belonged to him and would later go to his son. But what had he just heard? You won't receive 1 more cent from me or from Michael's company. You have 24 hours to get your things out of this house. The Anderson name no longer belongs to you. If I see you or your children near Lily, Michael, or Emily ever again, I will make sure the recording of this conversation reaches a judge and you won't leave jail for years. Now, get out of my sight. Victoria let out a choked sob. Ethan looked at her with hatred. You ruined everything, Mother, everything. Harold watched impassively as the Viper and her whelp destroyed each other while leaving the room. His son didn't dare say a word. He knew how severe his father was. If he said anything, he wouldn't just end up alone and penniless, but in prison. When their footsteps faded, the patriarch allowed himself to close his eyes for a second. The war was over. Justice had finally been done. Although it wasn't sweet, he was disappointed. He couldn't believe it had all been because of his own son and his wife. It was a flavor too bitter to savor. Harold returned to the orphanage that night. It was dark, but a warm light shone from the kitchen. He entered tired but at peace. The smell of bean stew filled the air. He found Michael, Emily, and Mama Maria sitting around the small wooden table. They were covered in sawdust paint and flour, and they were laughing. Michael was telling a story about how he'd almost glued his hand to a bunk bed, and Emily was laughing so hard that tears were running down her cheeks. When they saw Harold, they fell silent. Dad, what happened? Michael asked, standing up. Harold looked at his son, seeing the man who had been eclipsed by pain now smiling hands dirty from manual labor. He saw his daughter-in-law beautiful without a drop of makeup with flour on her nose. The cancer, Harold said, his voice soft, has been removed. Emily understood first. She let out a sigh that seemed to come from her very soul, and for the first time in 7 years, she wept with relief. Michael went to his father and hugged him tightly. "Thanks, Dad." "Now," said Harold, sitting down. "We have work to do. This plumbing is a mess." 6 months later, the orphanage on the hill was unrecognizable. It was no longer a ramshackle farmhouse. It was the Lily Sunny Foundation and home. Painted in bright colors with a new wing for bedrooms, a library funded by Emily, and a carpentry workshop run by Harold, Mama Maria's Diner was now a thriving local business that employed people from the town, with Michael serving as business advisor. The family was in the backyard, which now had real grass and a small playground. Michael, in worn-out jeans, was teaching Tommy how to throw a baseball. "Just like that, champ, follow through with your arm." Emily and Mama Maria, now the official director of the foundation, with a full and trained staff, were in the vegetable garden, now expanded, laughing while they pulled up carrots. On the porch, Harold was sitting in a new rocking chair that he had built himself. He didn't use a cane anymore. Beside him, Lily was reading him an adventure book. Jake, the youngest, who had been officially adopted by Michael and Emily along with Tommy, was fast asleep with his head on Harold's lap. "And then the night found the dragon," read Lily. Harold interrupted her gently. "Lily?" "Yes, Grandpa." He looked at her. His eyes were now clear and bright, full of an emotion that overwhelmed him. "Your father is smiling," he said, pointing to Michael. "I hadn't seen him smile like that since before you were born." The tears welled up in the old man's eyes, but this time they were tears of pure gratitude. "My little girl, my sunshine, I still feel like I owe you an apology for every day of those 7 years, for everything you lost. If God hadn't wanted us to find you, we never would have." Lily closed the book and placed her small hand over his. "Grandpa," she said, her voice full of that quiet wisdom that had saved him. "We already talked about this." He looked at her, and she smiled at him. "Don't cry," she told him softly. "Like you said, God knows what he's doing. He wanted me to come back. He wanted me to live in the orphanage." And now she looked at Tommy and Jake, who were running toward them. "Now I have brothers I never would have known. If I had never been here. We're all happier now, right?" Harold nodded. His heart was so full he thought it was going to burst. "So please," Lily continued, "don't say sorry anymore, just give thanks to God." "Yes," whispered Harold, hugging the 3 children tightly as tears ran down his face. "Yes, I will, little one." Lily snuggled into her grandfather's embrace, surrounded by her brothers. She looked at her parents, who were approaching, laughing. She remembered that first day when she had given her father a cup of lemonade, thinking that could cure an adult's sadness. She smiled. Money hadn't made her father happy, not even her lemonade, which was the best in town. The adults cried, but they laughed again, and they did it when they were together, working, eating bean stew in a small kitchen. That day, Lily finally understood something that Mama Maria had always known. True happiness wasn't what you drank, or the money you had, or the house you lived in. True happiness was company. It was the time you spent beside someone you loved, knowing you were safe. That was everything. That was happiness. In the years that followed, the foundation grew, partnering with local schools to provide after-school programs. And Lily even started a small community garden club, teaching other kids how to grow their own food and sell homemade treats at farmers markets. Her story inspired an annual charity run in the town, raising funds for missing children organizations, reminding everyone that hope and kindness could bridge any divide. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support us so we can bring you exciting news stories. See you in the next story. Yeah.